with the announcement of the new Somerset DLC, I wanted someone to bounce some ideas off and see how they felt about it. So I called Dread in and we had a bit of a long conversation about what we've expected, what we've seen, and how we generally feel about it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, Mr. Dread. First thing I want to talk to you about, alright, is I want to get your opinion on the cinematic trailer. Just the cinematic trailer and sort of what you saw from that, which wasn't a lot, and how do you feel about it?
Well, on the grounds of how the trailer looked, we'll get there first. We'll get to the other parts later. On the grounds of how it looked, I just don't think it presented enough information about what it was. We saw a bit of the Ultima out of the original trailers for ESO, and we saw.
In regards to her, right? She
Yep.
doesn't appear anywhere in game, does she?
Not of my. No, I don't think so. None of the.
When the first trailer originally came out way back in the day, I thought that was Queen Irene, and then it's definitely not.
No, definitely not.
So, like, who is this character meant to be? Because none of the three characters from the original cinematic turn up. Now she's back, and if I'm not mistaken, both characters from the Morrowind trailer turned up in game.
Yeah.
It just seems a bit weird for them to bring her back again, unless she's now going to be included in the game.
Well, I was thinking that, and maybe they might be bringing her back, because she was the only one not to get completely buggered over in the cinematics. I mean, the Breton guy died, and the Nord was stuck in Cold Harbor. But in the Morrowind trailer, we didn't get to meet the Warden, did we? So maybe
I think we did meet the Warden somewhere. I'd have to go double check that, but I thought I ran into him somewhere.
Well, if you did, I haven't. I've never done that quest, so we might have. I just didn't do it.
No, that's fair enough. Now, when it comes... Now, bear in mind, I agree with you. We barely saw anything in that trailer, and I did ask Zos how far away the full cinematic trailer is, and they say it's coming soon because the game's coming out soon. But in it, I could be wrong. It does appear that we're seeing the Crystal Tower with all sorts of energy flowing around.
Yeah, well, the Crystal Tower. The thing about the Crystal Tower is that's like where magic is. Very common is born. That's the place of the oldest, darkest, most ancient magics on the Mundus, and within the Mundus are. And if something's
what the transparent lore has to do with that, is that what that crystal is?
It might. I don't know. I think that itself opens up an interesting story arc because we're getting into like old magics, which is kind of a high fantasy kind of thing, which is something that I personally very like. Yeah.
Okay. Now we also did see Razum Dar in the trailer as well, which was quite cool. But he had that line which said, "Your home needs you now more than ever." I've got to assume that in the full trailer he's got to be speaking to the Queen, right?
That or in the announcement, they stated it's a proxy queen or something. What was the word they used? I think they said proxy queen.
It's her cousin or something like that, her sister-in-law or something. Yeah.
I have a feeling we won't really be seeing too much of Irene. I could very well be wrong, but as he said, she's off leading the charges and the war events on the mainland.
But
so
she did appear in the announcement trailer.
She did it, yes. Yeah. So I think she'll be there definitely, but not as much as maybe this proxy queen will be. Or maybe it could even curtail back to like the original thing at the Veiled Inheritance. In the original Ultima Zone Oradon storyline, you had the Veiled Inheritance and not wanting them to open the borders to the outsiders. Yes. And in the trailer, it mentioned she opens up the borders to the outsiders. So maybe that could have something to do with about it. Maybe the proxy queen could be maybe a bit of a traitor. I mean, we know her brother was, so...
Okay, so in saying that, then we got the gameplay trailer after it, which was quite cool. Now, maybe this was just me. I didn't expect griffins to be flying around.
I didn't either, but I'll be honest, I'm not unhappy about that. I don't think they've ever showed up in the lore. I mean, I could be very well wrong.
No, I agree with you. I can't think of a single reference to them at all, and in fact, I can't really think of too many flying creatures like that. Full stop.
Beyond like dragons and
yeah,
and maybe some like cliff
especially
races
in
and
ESO.
yeah.
When I first like that opening shot where you see the griffins flying in, my original thought was flying mounts all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But obviously they didn't show that happening at all. And you're also it shows you fighting griffins. So I was like, okay, this is a bit weird because isn't the griffin the symbol of the Daggerfall Covenant?
No, that's the Daggerfall Covenant's the lion.
Yeah. Oh, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dominion's got the eagle. You can actually find, like, if you look around at the Dominion architecture in places like Orodon and wherever that you'll find the High Elves, you can find griffin or eagle stands, so maybe something like that. I mean, I'm not unhappy about griffins being added. I think that's a very nice thing for the lore, and, I mean, we haven't been to the Somerset Isles properly since 1994, which is a very long time ago, longer than me. So, yeah. So I'm happy with them adding in small parts like that to the lore, which I think just adds to it. Yeah.
In saying that, we saw a little bit of the landmass. We saw one of the cities there. What did you take away from it? Like, how did you feel seeing it? Did it?
I will be honest.
You had a lot of doubts about Somerset.
I did have a lot of doubts about. I mean, I don't even trust Bethesda with building the Somerset Isles.
Agreed.
But it's far better than I expected. They on the scene that they captured, they had the tall, sprawling buildings, very high towers.
Yes.
And they did a lot better than I honestly thought they could. So I'm very, very happy about that fact there. And we saw a bit of the inner city, which I wasn't as pleased about. We saw them like the peasants walking through the city without looking like completely regal, which I was a bit. But besides that, I thought the architecture of the buildings, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, it doesn't meet my full expectations, but those are unreasonable anyway. So,
yeah, I'm probably on the same level there. Like when I first saw the first image of it, I was a bit like, it kind of looks like every other high elf city we've seen or even building. But there was a couple of moments where you saw it pull back a bit, and you saw the top of the towers and things like that, and it was a bit more fancy. And they had these sort of flying spires and elegant arches and things like that. And I was like, okay, it's got some potential there. I'm not going to totally write it off. We're only getting a brief glimpse.
Yeah. So I can only hope that those are teasers as to how glorious it is in game. Fingers crossed, we'll see later.
Now, we also saw in there briefly, we saw the new Stygic mounts coming in as well, along with the Nightmare Sench and the Blood Shadow, so they looked kind of cool, but nothing really too unique there. But right at the end of that trailer, Mephalah's statue.
Yes.
Now, where does Mephalah fall in with the High Elves? What's the go here?
To be honest, I'm not too sure. I mean, I know Mephalah's domain is mystery and spinning in webs and plotting things, which goes back to, I think, partly my original statement about maybe a plot behind our end, because I know Boethia is the prince of plots and betrayal and all that nice stuff, but Mephalah is very much a web spinner and plucks at a thread to see a situation of events unfold. Words I'm looking for. So she might have something to do with that. I don't know, but I thought it was an interesting choice to have her. To truth be told.
Yeah, I didn't expect
because
that.
We've already had Mephalah. We had her in, I think, one of the public dungeons. We had we've had a couple of a DLC on her, which was the one that adds in the bloody dungeon and what's it called? You know what I'm talking about? The Cradle of Shadows. That's it.
Yeah. Like it does seem like they kind of pick one Daedric Prince to run with. Like for the main story, obviously you had Molag Bal, and then in Morrowind you had
Wow.
Yeah, with the Hound trying to steal everything and things like that. So it kind of feels like.
Well, no, in Morrowind they also had Azura, and I will give them credit. They've added in Periant recently, which is a very forgotten Daedric Prince. I find Periant with the Scale Caller DLC, whatever it was. They've touched on other Daedric Princes a bit, so I'm not too displeased about it. I'm just curious as to what she really represents and what she means for the people there.
I kind of like that they step away from Molag Bal and do bring the other ones in. I do find it interesting. It's just, it seemed, I don't know, the way that it's not only the statue that we're getting in the end of that trailer, but also the collector's edition comes with a statue of Mephalah. So it seems like she's going to play somewhat of quite a large role in this story. Well,
remember the statue that came with the collector's edition from Morrowind is the Dwarven Centurion, which only happened in a trial. So.
Oh, okay, fair call.
So
it might not be as important.
It could just be part of the trial. because they mentioned that the trial that they're adding has to do with like the Griffin Riders or whatever disappearing, and maybe she might have something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe it has to do with the Delve, or she could play a large part in it. It's all really speculation.
Yeah, correct.
But that's all we can do at this point, really, is it?
Very little to run on.
Yeah.
All right. So with those two trailers out of the way, we get in to the gameplay stuff now. Jewelry crafting finally getting added. For me, that's huge.
That is really good. I am so happy about that. Now, mainly because I PvP a lot in non-vet, so I can finally run a full set of gear on my characters, which is
that
absolutely
was the big killer for
stunning.
Me.
Yep.
Trying to plan an ult, you could never get 2 5 set piece bonuses, no matter how hard you tried. It was a pain.
Yeah, unless you like grind for like a pain in the ass time, and those gears would only last 10 levels before you grind it for them. It was horrible.
Now the question I have around that though is, do you think that I advocated in one of my other videos that I wanted jewelry crafting added, but here's the kicker. There's only necklace and rings, so surely they're not going to have just those. They're surely going to add something else. But
I don't think so. I mean, they might, but I'm thinking that necklaces and rings, changing those and being able to upgrade those, as they mentioned, is going to be already a big enough kicker to the economy.
Like, I think it'll be huge even with just those, but it just seems like such a light update.
Yeah.
That
they're also adding in a bunch of new traits to the jewelry as well.
Okay.
Which they said they're going to have like the healthy, arcane, and robust as they normally had, and they had they mentioned there was going to be 6 others. They mentioned one of them was bloodthirsty, which the lower the enemy's health got, the more damage you do to them. Which sounds like a passive execute. So I mean that could run all the night build for all I know.
Very cool. Well, I certainly hope so. Like, at the end of the day, glad it's in. Just finally, one of the biggest gripes I have just gone away right there.
Yep.
But going from one of my gripes going away to one of them starting up, the Sigic Order.
No. No. No.
So, for me personally, I'm not happy to particularly see them appear. I really wanted Bethesda to sort of keep that, to maybe slowly add them in their games over time and keep them in the background as that mystery thing. But they're here. We get to not only help them but also learn from them. So
we get to join them. We get to join the Sigic Order. I mean, wasn't it hard for Sothasil to join the Sigic Order? And isn't he like a god who runs an entire realm? So.
And this is kind of where I'm like, because we spoke yesterday, and I said the one thing I don't want them to add is a new class that's the Sigic Order, and instead of adding a class, in my mind they actually made it worse, and they added a skill line. Like on a class, I could have at least in my head gone.
You could have had 3 skill lines with that wouldn't have had much storyline to it, but instead what they've done is they have added a storyline, a bunch of quests, and only 1 skill line to it.
And it also just kind of feels cheap. Like my Templar can become a member of the
Sigic Mage,
My Templar, my Nord Templar, like not insulting my Nord Templar, I love my Nord Templar, but he's smart enough. Like
my orc, my brutish, big orc can be a member of the Sigic Order. I mean, it is completely ridiculous, and I am quite disappointed. In Zos for doing that.
Yeah, I admit, for me, when the second I heard it, I kind of thought...
I facepalmed. I genuinely facepalmed on my chair. I was like, oh...
It was kind of one of those moments where I'm like, I don't like this because I feel like you're trying to take something that other people think is cool, which is the mystery of the Sigic Order, and just throwing it in there without giving it its due credit. And maybe they will, like, maybe I'll be surprised. I just don't think so. And... of all the things I would have preferred them to add, you mentioned it yesterday. Necromancer alone, the Coldfire Tree, to me would have been 100 times better than adding the Sigic Order in any fashion.
Yeah.
Maybe you have them turn up briefly at the end to sort of say, "Hey, we manipulated you to do this quest" or something. I don't know.
I wouldn't have even minded. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded. I mean, I would have minded slightly, but I could have happily dealt with even going to the Sigic, the Isle of Artaim. Which is something I'm not happy about, but I could have handled that. I could have handled that with grit of my teeth saying Dragon Break. This doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
But joining them and really getting an inside view of them becoming a member is just, yeah. I mean, the Dragonborn in Skyrim. You know, you've got the soul of a dragon. You know, destiny is on your ass. I mean, you killed a fragment of the time god. They didn't let you join them. I know. But in ESO, I personally had their soul stolen by Daedric Prince and got it back.
Well, you're a soul,
and maybe it might have attacked a couple of dungeons along the way. Yeah, you're material for the Sigic Order. You walk with a two-handed axe who doesn't have the simplest understanding of magic. Good on you.
Yeah, I'm. As much as I try and reconcile it in my head, I'm struggling to, and especially because even the quest, right? So that the quest text says something like, "Now they have returned to stop a crisis that threatens to unravel the future." And
are they just manipulate that? Like,
and I'm just like, I don't know. For me, from a lore perspective, like, I know I forgive ESO a lot for running a bit fast and loose with the lore because it's an MMO. It kind of has to, but I think they kind of stepped on a nail.
Crossed the line, yeah.
Yeah, I really wish they didn't do it. But even possibly worse than just that, the 3 abilities.
The skill.
Now, looking at those 3 abilities, right? So
I only call it one ability. The reverse or revert, whatever. The reverse time one.
They've got 3 listed on the website. So the first one is time stop. So basically, you're able to freeze time in a place, and people who enter it will be slowed down and then eventually stop. Now, let's think about that from a world versus world perspective for a second, right? Imagine putting that on a breach. Like, you can drop oil on that. Like, and bear in mind, originally when I heard it, I thought, okay, well, if they're frozen in time, they're also frozen from damage. But no, it says time is slowed in place and eventually frozen, and then it says something like allowing you to set up or jump them, basically. I'm like, okay, so it's a stun. It's a high area stun. This is insanity, and everyone's going to run with that. On top of that, the next skill is meditate, which is basically just it regens all 3 meters, and then undo, which is the rewind time for 4 seconds.
Now, I'm already not liking all of these.
Yeah.
But the reverse time one, I think, is the most evil thing that Zos could ever add to the Elder Scrolls Online. I mean, it is... No. Could you imagine you're playing like some Nightblade ganker, which I do. You know, I'm sorry, all of you who hate me, but I do that. I'll get in, I'll get my shots off, I'll jump in with an attack and try execute them. But can you imagine doing that? You get in, they turn around to start hitting you back, and you just reverse time, and off you go hidden again.
Correct.
I mean, that is
100%.
Or a tank that finally spends a moment or stuffs up for a second and loses all of its resources and is about to die, just not full health again, full stamina.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I would think, and I could be wrong, I'm only guessing, based on how impressive that skill is, I would almost have to think that's the ult for the skill tree.
I hope
Might
so.
not be. But even then, that's still a hell of a power. You mentioned it right there, right? And even thinking beyond kind, where I spend most of my time, right, in the high level vet PvP, imagine someone with the monster helms and all the proc sets. If they charge in, hit every proc set on one hit, and then hit that button, someone is dead and they're gone.
Yep.
Like, this is the ultimate gank and get the fuck away ability.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I can see their use. The funny part being, oddly enough, for these skills, I can kind of see their uses in PvE, but by and large, these skills are made for PvP.
Oh yeah.
Like,
there's no way that those are. I mean, there's no point in time where I'll be running a public dungeon off in Grantwood and think, holy shit, guys, I need to go revert 3 seconds ago because someone's got around my defenses and has started to gank me. I mean,
agreed. Like, running for me on my Templar, I think, okay, let's time stop an area and stun a few creatures in it. And I just think, what's the point? The whole premise of farming is to get every creature around you, hit them all with lifesteal abilities, and keep running. Like, it's, I don't know. I look at these skill lines and I'm dreading running into PvP after this. If they put a whole balance idea going around and they're going to change a few things and change some stats, great. But
I would rather them just not do it. To be honest, I think
once again,
I think ESO PvP they've finally gotten it to a point well, I am genuinely happy with how it's sitting and playing. I have no gripes really, apart from maybe the loading screens.
Yep.
I have no gripes, and they're not going to throw like not just they're not throwing a spanner into a cog. They're throwing like a human into a they're throwing like an entire person into this to fuck up with the gears.
Yeah, and like the thing about PvP that I've been enjoying it for a while now is because especially in Con, it's certainly more balanced. But when you do go into that vet PvP, you can have wildly swinging levels of skill and gear.
Yep.
Like some people will literally, and this happened to me, some people will literally one hit you, and some people won't. And then you add this kind of stuff on top of it, and I just think this is going to be punishing, to the highest degree. Like I even think to the battlegrounds, and I think these all three. Well, not
battlegrounds. Can you imagine holding the skull? You know, when we hold the skull as a tank, and you start to take the damage, you just reverse time or pop your regen stuff, or
look, there is possible they could do some things to prevent that. Meaning, if you undo time, you might drop the skull or things like that. So we've seen similar things like that in other games. But my big question is around this time stop one though. That's got to be capped.
That's that. I know they removed AOE caps, but I hope they AOE cap that.
They kind of have to. Imagine if you imagine 3 of them on a door. You're just try and come through that. We're just going to keep firing ballistas. 3 people could hold the fort from 40.
The thing is, unlike a class, right? Any person can use that. Yes. So you could have any number of defenders that keep drop this time stop thing at a door. And say you can't damage them while the timer stopped, right? They're still snared on the approach, which snares fine, fair enough. But that gives you enough time. Yep.
All sorts of things can happen in that time. Yep. Even if literally all it does is literally stop them in place for 3 seconds, and then they can move again, and nothing's changed. That's more than enough time for everyone. Especially when you're on TeamSpeak, to sit and go, "All right, everyone, fire now." Yeah. And then all of a sudden, 3, 4, 5 fire ballistas hit at one time.
I think that also, if that is the case, that could be potentially the most troller thing you could do to your own allies. Could you imagine?
Yes.
You're you're in a keep, and you're say one of these people who doesn't like his own alliance because you're a wanker like that, and then the enemy are pushing in, where every single person gets the shot off, and you just freeze them. And they're unfrozen by the time people can get another shot off.
Yeah,
they're all up.
That's right. If they don't take any damage,
so you'll either be granting total immunity to enemy players from your own team, which is fucking ridiculous, or you'll be stopping an enemy to where they literally can't do anything for 3 seconds, which again is absolutely ridiculous. There's no good way to look at it.
No, this is the thing. I'm at this. I'm so frustrated because I kind of feel for me this is like the reverse Morrowind. When Morrowind trailers came out, my expectations for what was coming was really low, and I was blown away by what I saw. I loved everything I saw from the gameplay trailer to the cinematic. But then when it released, then I was disappointed by the warden and things like that, and I thought this isn't that great, and they didn't add as much as I kind of thought they would, and they
you can't go into every single building, they can't. I felt cheated out. The majority of the map, is the Red Mountain, and you can't go onto the Red Mountain.
It didn't feel as impressive as Morrowind sort of should be. Some of the cities were a little bit small, but all things considered, at the end of the day, I was happy with the expansion. I thought it was good, but I was disappointed. Whereas with this one, the second it started getting teased, I was thinking all the things it could possibly be, and I was hyped. And then even when it sort of everyone started going, it's going to be Somerset. League's point, it's going to be Somerset. And I'm like, okay, not thrilled because I'd rather Bethesda do that, but
Calovia. Why couldn't they just do that Calovia or elsewhere? I
think it's because everyone wants Somerset. I think everyone's been asking for it forever.
As long as they don't do spellcrafting one day, I'm all good.
Well, I actually really wanted spellcrafting in.
No, I did not.
Really?
No spellcrafting. Could you imagine it? It was just because.
Don't get me wrong. It needs to be done right, but I liked the concept of adding, similar to what Warcraft added many years ago when they added archaeology. I like adding that sort of mystery magical element to the game where you've got to go investigate and learn a spell. And look, I don't want them to be super powerful or anything like that. I'd even prefer if they weren't combat spells, utility spells that weren't all that effective in PvP.
In that case, I could work with spellcrafting with something like a Mage
Yeah.
Light that made things prettier, brighter.
I think
Okay.
for me,
In
I
that
always
case,
wanted them
I
to
could
add
work with
things like real
spellcrafting.
darkness,
Yeah.
so Mage Light had a purpose beyond stealth detection.
Yeah. In that case, I could work with that. But I just think with spellcrafting, I know it's not something to do with anything on the Somerset right now. We're probably detracting a bit.
Yeah,
but I just think spellcrafting has far too many avenues where it could go wrong. And and I know I said I don't trust ZOS with the architecture of the ultimate towers and everything. They surprised me with that. But I genuinely, I just do not trust ZOS with that. And I think they would simply be smarter to avoid it altogether. But anyway, back to the matter at hand. Yeah.
Well, the original, just actually staying there for a minute, the original design for spellcrafting, you're right, could have ended in disaster, because you look at games that came out and were kind of like free-for-all on power sets, like one that comes to mind for me was Champions Online, which was like, build your hero and give him any powers you want, and it was just a clusterfuck of broken characters. Like, massively broken characters. And we would end up with the same thing. Like, people would discover that this spell-crafted spell is 100% better than everything else, and everyone would run with it, and then you'd have a broken system.
Another big problem with spellcrafting is how it would damage stamina builds. Everyone would be playing Major. If you could just make a spell, that'd be the most powerful thing. Why bother running a stamina build? What would be the point? If you could make some sneak attack death machine, why bother playing a stamina nightblade if you could just do the same thing with magical abilities? Yeah.
I do kind of think, though, don't you think you need some kind of addition to the Magicka side of things? For me,
well, I guess that's going to be the. I guess that's the Sigic spell tree. Yay!
But I mean, like, to sort of offset, like, one, I think vampires are a little bit hit or miss, but werewolves, I think, are fucking awesome every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Like, their passives are amazing, just full stop. But then just stamina builds in general benefit heaps from stealth and other things which you can say add to Magicka builds, but I don't think they add as much.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like anyone who's playing a traditional caster kind of is a bit limited and a bit boring sometimes. So I kind of want them to add something there, but Sigic one wasn't what I wanted.
Spells need more flair. They need more.
Yeah.
What ZOS needs to do to make playing a mage more interesting is they need to touch up the spell sounds. Firstly, just sounds.
Yeah.
They need to touch up the spell sounds so they have maybe a bit more of a pop or maybe more of a fizzle or a boom. Then they maybe need to change a bit of the graphics behind them to give them more flair.
Yeah, for me also, I know I won't get this one definitely this late in the game, but I kind of would have preferred it too if they actually split the elemental staves into 3 separate trees.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I think you add 3 separate trees in there. I think that you make them more interesting. It's kind of the destruction staff tree is a little bit boring, and like I said this to you yesterday, we don't really have a traditional elemental mage of any kind.
Yeah.
Like you can
say, you can get a lightning mage out of a you can get a lightning mage out of a sorcerer. You can get a cryo mage out of a warden, and I guess a semi pyro mage out of a dragon knight.
The sort of cold spells are kind of boring and not really all that great on a warden nor on a destruction staff. The same goes with the fire spells for dragon knight and even the destruction staff. It's just kind of like all those, like, it's magic. It should be impressive. It's kind of not. Like, it says a lot when the Templar has the coolest looking spells. Like, don't get me wrong, the sorcerer has some cool ones.
Kind of guy has the most.
Like, Nova alone is hands down the best looking spell in the game.
Yeah,
like,
or maybe Meteor.
Yeah, well, no, I think it's better than Meteor because it sticks around for a while. But like, you see that ability go off. I remember the first gameplay video where they showed that thing. And I'm like, I'm playing that class, and I have since launch. Like, because it's cool. Like, from the spear shards to just everything about like their destruction beam. Like, granted, there's a lot of beams in the game, but just everything they kind of have is just a little bit cooler than what we're seeing on other classes. And it's like, your mage should be kind of cool.
As to the cryo mages being weak and uncool, you should say that to my cryo mage, mate.
Well, it's not that they're weak; it's that they're not impressive. Like, I don't particularly like the selection of spells associated with them. That's all.
Yeah, they could have done better. Anyway, what's the next topic we're going to get onto?
No, like, in all honesty, that's basically it. We're pretty much to the end. They haven't
in that
really
case,
much more.
Well, what about the lore behind them entering the Isle? What are the lore of this being? What about the law of just being able to enter the Somerset Isles at this point in time?
Okay, now, okay, I could be wrong, but for me it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Especially because I know that when we went to Morrowind to me never felt like an expansion pack for the Ebonheart Pact.
No.
Like none of those Dunmer at all had anything to do with the Ebonheart Pact, as far as I was concerned.
The veterans,
whole
maybe the
separate
Chovanis certainly didn't, did they? I mean,
Well, it's just you never felt like over there like you were walking through an Ebonheart Pact zone. To me,
yeah.
it didn't feel that way.
There were no pact banners. It was all Great House
Yeah.
banners and
Whereas
temple banners.
I'm looking at this new zone, and even the one of the costumes you get with it. It wasn't the costume. It might have been the
It was the
set.
style, yeah.
The our Ultima Protector or something.
Yeah,
Or something
that's
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
They're basically the Dominion PvP gear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it kind of. I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I know that in PvE the borders don't really matter anymore. We go wherever we want, yeah. But from a lore perspective, I'm still sitting here thinking, these elves, I don't think they would do this.
And second, I just don't. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm almost certain about this, but I think I recall that in Tess Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, they mentioned that until Talos took over, outsiders didn't step into the Somerset Isles.
I think you could be right, and even then,
someone in
certain
chat,
even then people stepped in it en masse.
Yeah, not en masse, definitely not.
So, like, because I could almost remember something in Skyrim mentioning that they're basically cut off from the rest of the world. Like, no one goes there. You're not welcome there. Like, they're very xenophobic. They don't like other people being in their homes.
And if at the very least they are going to have people there, they need to be like the workers, right? The people who are going to go to the Somerset Isles need to be like the low worker class. Like say you're going to have like 4 class districts because the ultimate then the class into
class
like
based,
like class based, and like the top class are like the scholars and the teachers, which is unlike anywhere here. But anyone that's not an Ultima should have to be at least in the bottom class, and if they're not in the bottom class, then like second or even, God forbid, the third class. They need to be looking really damn good. They need to be dressed really well, maybe a diplomat from a foreign land or something.
Yeah.
So, but to have adventurers freely roam around the Somerset Isles, I am
during wartime.
Yeah, some ragtag, Dunmer wearing, full Covenant, full Pax Regalia, just strolling through the streets of Alinor. No.
Yeah, I can't deny it. No matter which way I slice it, it doesn't sit great with me.
Yeah.
Like, I want to like it, but yeah, in my head I can't get around it. It kind of messes with me a bit too much. And as much as I just, similar to you, I look at other areas and go, I just would have preferred you go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, I can't particularly name one that I'm like, I really want you to go there. Like, elsewhere maybe, like, because it's kind of cool, but the Khajiit in this period as well are kind of downtrodden, so
yeah.
There's not much.
You've got plenty of other areas. No, not we don't just have Tamriel. We've got 16 Daedric realms. I know I've already gone to a couple of realms in the last big expansion was Clockwork City, but we've also got things. Yeah, I would have rather us go to Akavir than the Somerset Isles.
Yeah, like that. I agree with you there. I would rather them flesh out Nirn and get the continent a bit more done. Now, because there's a lot of areas on the western coast which haven't been explored yet.
Yep.
And could be added. Like, I kind of like what they did with the Hrothgar expansion, where they just opened a new zone that expanded where we currently went. And for me, that was actually one of the best looking zones they added.
It was, yeah.
Fleshed out. So I was very happy with that, and I would have preferred them to go almost anywhere else. I really didn't want a Wood Elf expansion. I'm kind of
we've already got the full Valenwood, don't we?
Yeah, but like they could have gone a bit more west and put another forest in or something. But
yeah, well, any more east, and you're going to elsewhere. Any more west is coastline. So
yeah,
they've added in basically the entire Valenwood.
The one they maybe could have done was what is it? It's west of Skyrim with the what are they called?
High Rock.
Yeah, High Rock. Well, and where the
The thing
Because High Rock is where the orcs are from?
yeah, the High Rock's where the Britons are from. The problem with that is, if you look at the map, all of High Rock is actually in the game. It's divided into Bankerai, Stormhaven, Rivenspire, and Glenumbra, and that's all of High Rock. I mean, they've still got plenty more of the Alakir, of the Red Guard's place to go, of you know what I mean, of the Red Guard's homeland to go. I mean, yes, they did have Hughes Bay, which took you there, and you've got South Bankerai and the Alakir Desert, which take you there, but there's still plenty more of the area to go. The Orcs are pretty much fully done. Now, at this point in time, they've also got the Markarth region that's in Skyrim is fully under control of the Reachmen.
That's what I was going to say, the Reachmen.
The Reachmen, so they could be very interesting.
I wouldn't have minded going there. The big reason why I can see why they didn't do that is
it's another pact zone. Or close
correct.
To the pact, yeah.
Well, also Skyrim, it's very close to Skyrim. Yeah. And two, they kind of did a lot of the Reachmen stuff in the Hrothgar DLC as well.
And the bloody Falkreath Hold one as well.
Yeah, correct. They added in Falkreath Hold, which is more Reachmen. So I can see why they avoided it, but like to me, there's a giant area there where you could have added, and I'm like, once again, I just look at Somerset Isles and I'm like, god damn it. And then Sigil, I'm like, god damn it. Like, just, I almost just anything else would have been better. Like, for me personally, and I know I've got no hope of it happening, is I would have loved anything that dealt with the Snow Elves and their history.
Yeah. Like, maybe Blackreach before and all Dark Out, you know, or where's that place? Where's that grove of in Skyrim where you find the Snow Elves? Yeah, that one. If you're listening, type it in there down below so you can scold me for not knowing names. But I wouldn't mind something around there, or maybe Solstheim, which again is close to Morrowind.
Yes.
Skyrim. But
it had lore. It was a good place. It was kind of cool.
And if you have a look, if you actually just pull up a map and just look at it, there are more zone-like things on the western side of the map. I mean, yes, you have like a lot of Skyrim and a bit of Morrowind, and I know we just had a Morrowind expansion and a bit of the Black Marsh, and I definitely don't go to the Black Marsh because I think the only worst place you could pick to go apart from the Somerset Islands would be the Black Marsh for lore. Well, there's a lot of the Imperial
map. We've basically got empty area north of Craglorn, which is between Hrothgar and the East March and the Rift. Yep. And then we've got emptiness, which is south of Craglorn, which is from the Alakir Desert to Cyrodiil. So there's a lot you could do. Yeah. But also then you've got everything between Reaper's March and Shadowfen, which does contain Elsweyr. And, you know, I get that, but I don't know. I look at all those blank spots on the map and I just think, like, Somerset Isles is cool. I can't deny that. It looks kind of cool. Part of me does want to go, but part of me just doesn't want to mess up. I prefer it being a mystery.
Yeah. So, like, some things are best left as a mystery. The imagination can more than the eyes can.
That's right. I think sometimes when you add things that, like, well, for me, the Sigic Order is probably going to fall 100% in that category. When you add things and you take away that mystery, you ruin what made it good. Mm-hmm. Like, they're meant to be unachievable things that you can't get to. Like
the mystery of the dwarves. I mean, we know the dwarves there, and you know, if you're really good at the lore, you probably know why they disappeared. But if they brought back the dwarves in the next Elder Scrolls game, I'd be pissed. I'd be so angry because that removes the mystery of the dwarves.
Part of me actually was worried that based on everything that happened in Skyrim, because they kind of had a huge focus on that we would see them return in the next Elder Scrolls, because it just sort of seemed like the next step is they dropped all these hints about them and everyone's asking about them, so the next step is bring them back. Yeah. Which I God hope they don't. I like what they've done with them. I like that they have that mystery, and like I think that the one thing for me they've done in Skyrim was it showed that they could add things which would raise new mysteries. Like for me, I didn't even know the Snow Elves were a thing until I ran into one, and then I was like, "Damn, this is pretty awesome." And then you find out they're the Falmer now, and you're like, "Oh, this is just terrible." And you're like,
"You mean you heard about them in Morrowind on the Solstheim DLC? You know, the Snow Princes, blah."
Yeah.
But you never really got to fully understand what they were. So yeah, Skyrim did a lot of good things on that. Yeah. So go on.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like all in all, from what we see right now, like tentatively, I'm kind of happy, but I'm also a little bit sad. I just, especially like after we spoke yesterday, and you mentioned Necromancer as a class,
Yeah.
I was like, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? There's a lot of ways you could do it.
Oh yeah.
I think Coldfire Tree would have been
A cold
just
fire tree along with maybe like a necromage tree, and then maybe one with death magic, and
Well,
that would be
I was thinking like a bone tree, which would have things like maybe bone armors and like bone
yeah,
traps and things like that. But I
and
didn't
like a
want to
bone
summon a
colossus
tree.
ultimate.
I
Oh,
kind of
I,
wanted to avoid summoners because I didn't want it to cross over with a sorcerer.
I
So I'm
wouldn't
like,
mind, you know, something like you have like maybe one summoning like a skeleton that you can either morph into being like a bigger skeleton,
yeah, maybe.
and or like maybe a zombie.
As long as it's not like, because the problem I have with putting too many on is it does just feel like a summoner sorcerer.
Yeah.
Because they had the three you could technically have with a sorcerer. So as long as they avoided that, I wouldn't have had too much of an issue. But then you've also got, you could have had like a plague or something like that tree on the end for debuffs and things like that. Potential was there. And I had my heart set on spears, man. I really did.
Yeah.
My heart set on
The
spears.
pole arms. I want pole arms. Yeah. They didn't add pole arms of any kind.
Yeah.
I mean, the spear, they've got all the things there. I mean, the spear could fall under the category that the swords go under.
Well, a one-handed spear in my mind could fall under sword and board.
Yeah,
and I'd be
that's
fine
true.
with it. It's just stylistic. I would love it.
Yeah. And like you could have a halberd would act similar to like the way the axes do and do bleed damage. And you could have like a pole arm, and like a pole mace, whatever the word is, for the more kind of effects of armor piercing, or crossbows. Like, you know, a bow that bows shoot quickly and not too hard, but a crossbow might have more impact things, be more direct damage. Maybe having like one AoE ability where you shoot an explosive bolt.
Yeah, something like that. I would have thought a crossbow maybe with a shorter range, maybe slightly more damage, but slower reload because loading bolts is slower. But you just went with the sort of automatic version, so maybe they'd add that and make it a bit easier. But I don't know, like I really had my heart set on spears. I was like, yep, add one-handed spears in for sword and board, and that's fine. Don't even change the tree. Like, leave the tree as it is. Just add an animation for using spears, and we're good. But then add a two-handed variant for pole arms and spears.
Yeah.
And I think you're set. I think you've got a new 5-piece skill tree there. You've sort of added a new visual thing to another existing skill tree. I think that would have been awesome. And then we didn't like.
It's disappointing.
And not get a weapon line.
I know, to not get a class. And even they said after Morrowind that they'll be releasing a class every year or something whenever they had a chapter come out. Yeah, they've released a chapter and there's no class. What's going on, Zos?
They could still announce things. Like, maybe we're being a bit harsh here. They could still announce things. They could turn around. This is, for everyone watching, this is like the day after they've released their first announcement. So they could change our mind later on. We could see things that we like a bit more, or they could announce things, later on. I don't know. I just doubt.
From what we know,
because we knew everything about Morrowind the day it was announced. That's the only reason why I'm doubting it. Spoiler. Not spoiler. Bloody disclaimer. Yeah, they could add something. I think if they were going to, it would have been announced today to push the sale. So I can't see anything big getting added. So that one to me was probably the biggest disappointment.
Are you going to be buying the full collector's edition or just the normal edition, or are you just going to wait for it to come out? Because I know I jumped on buying the physical collector's edition with Morrowind.
But I won't be getting the physical. Yeah. I haven't bought physical games in years now. But I will be getting the collector's edition. I saw what comes with the collector's edition, and I was just things like, even as dumb as it sounds, like the Sigic Memento and the Griffin Pet, and I was just like, yeah, done.
I'm actually just going to get the normal. I'm going to get the normal one because the only things I really liked about the pre-orders was the Griffin Pet, which they're going to release another one eventually anyway. I mean, I mentioned the Crown Store money off of that, and it was the costume that was coming up, but you get that normally anyway. Yes, that adds the style, but you're going to be able to find the style manually. You can pay money for that.
No, my luck, I won't be able to.
Yeah, if you're rich, you'll.
Well, yeah, like that. Well, that's the thing is, I'll be thinking. I won't be getting it probably this week. I'll be thinking on it for probably a week or two.
Yeah.
But at this stage, the collector's edition is probably the way I'll go. I can't help myself when it comes to things like that. It's just, Like, I think I got the collector's edition for ESO, collector's edition for Morrowind. It's just, that's how I go. That's how I roll with things. So,
Alright then, is that it?
yeah, I think that's it, mate. Like, I think we'll have to reconvene this later on when we get a full trailer for the new cinematic.
We'll do a recap once it fully comes out, or if we both get into the beta and there's no NDA.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think when the cinematic comes out, I think based on that quote from Razam Dar, I think it's going to tell a story. Like, the thing about the Morrowind trailer was it didn't tell a story relevant to Morrowind at all.
No.
It was kind of like hunting down the
Morrowind
that's the other thing too. If you're getting the physical edition, it has a journal from Razam Dar on what's going on. And I'd really like to read that. That was the only thing that tempted me.
Well, they said it's mostly an art book with a bit of his commentary.
Oh,
so,
is it?
Yeah. Because I read through the Narya book, the physical collected one, and mostly it was just her commentary on like the armor styles and stuff. It was still a bit of a good read. There was some interesting stuff there, but mostly it was just this arc back from the early game that she commented on.
Okay.
So I wouldn't get too down about that. And if it is really good, you can probably find it online somewhere, like to look freely at on Google Images. So
yeah. But yeah, look, I think when that trailer hits, there'll be more to talk about because I do think it's going to have some story element to it, but we'll just have to wait and see because once again, that girl's back in it. The second I saw her, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I think they even.
I think she's actually the most interesting part about the trailer, to be honest.
Yeah.
That and Mephala.
They said something about in one of the blurbs I read about how you're going to finish a quest you started in the original game. So something in the original game happened, and it carries over to now. So I have no clue what that could be, but maybe it does revolve around her. Maybe the whole idea of this character and whoever the hell she is, she might have. Maybe she
could just represent you.
Well, maybe I thought that as well because none of them appeared. But then the fact that she turns up the fact that she didn't turn up in the Morrowind trailer, like I thought if you're gonna do that, you'd at least be consistent with it.
Yeah.
So. Like you could be right, and I could have been wrong earlier. Maybe the warden doesn't turn up in game. I thought I saw him. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I saw a player who just looked like him.
Yeah.
But like I thought I did. And I kind of prefer them to add trailers that do represent the game and not the player.
Yeah.
Like for me, you don't necessarily need to add the player into a cinematic trailer, in my opinion. I prefer you to tell the story and then we appear into it.
And that's maybe a silhouette or something, or like or whoever it is, like you're strapped in a first person, they're talking to you. But yeah, I get what you mean.
And look, to be perfectly honest, that chick can't be the player character because she's way more OP.
Yeah.
That Green Lightning bullshit. No. If that was in the game, I'd be happy. If they added that skill line into the game,
just for me,
expansion,
just for me, so I can go into Cyrodiil and knock down all those walls on the keys. Just by myself.
I just look at that skill tree and I'm like, you know what? Give me that.
Then no one else
keep the Sigic thing, and I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And then I'd love this expansion forever. Anyway, mate, thank you very much for coming in and having a chat with me.
Alright, it was a pleasure.
It was a lot to say, and we will catch up again whenever we have more information.
Right on, catch you around then.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for having me.